wonderful to have this conversation with you, Mr. Kumar. Thanks so much for...
Pleasure for me.
It's really good to be here and in New York, such a beautiful venue, and it's a perfect day for having a conversation with you. I know you came in today, but you look fresh as ever, and that probably explains the dynamism with which you lead the State Bank of India, which is such a venerable institution, has so much history, and of course is not only India's largest bank, but also one of the globe's largest. And I have a feeling that you're going to take the bank to new heights in order to help steer and usher in a new era.
With the good wishes of friends like you.
Absolutely. We always have our wishes. I think, it's an institution, SBI, that has transformed over time and needs to prepare for the future. So what I was wondering, just to start out with you, is to think about what are actually the biggest opportunities and challenges that you see, both in the Indian landscape, financial landscape, as well as globally at the moment.
India, you know that it is growing very fast. The growth rate is 7.5%, which is estimated for the current year. It has young population.
Yeah.
And you can do so much.
Yeah.
We have not touched the tip of the iceberg even today. And though we are amongst the largest economies of the world, but per capita income is still low. And the aspirations of the people in India, now they are at a high level. And when you have unleashed that power of aspiration, India, when it has become an aspirational country, so it creates its own momentum for growth. And in such a scenario where the investment opportunities are huge, either in infrastructure or the consumption, manufacturing, services, technology, whatever segment you touch it, there you can see the growth opportunities. Common market in the country.
There's an established way of banking, but I don't imagine India's trajectory to be one where we simply imitate what the West has done, but instead we perhaps can leapfrog and find our own ways of doing it.
No, but that is what is happening today. If you take even the technology stack which has been prepared in the country, so India has already leapfrogged. Our UPI, just as an example, it is unique to the country. Even identity, Aadhaar, there are issues where of course the matter went to the Supreme Court and certain guidelines and judgment has come from the Supreme Court what you can do, what you cannot do. But till the guidelines came and we were able to open 27,000 accounts daily on our digital platform. And the payment system is so advanced in India today that other countries may have to probably follow that. So it is already happening, and this is only one example. Even the lending using the digital technology now completely changed. We have very recently, just last month, come out with a contactless lending platform for SMEs, which will ride on the information available through GST and income tax returns and the credit bureau supports. And in less than 1 hour, one can get the loan approved. So the change or the paradigm shift which is happening in the country, sometimes because we live in that age, so we don't realize its importance.
Fintech is obviously a big part of this, and I know that SBI is investing in both payment systems and otherwise. Can you see, for instance, the likes of blockchain being adopted in the Indian ecosystem, perhaps even earlier than in other places, maybe like China with its sandboxes where it's loosened regulations to allow the introduction of new technology?
Yeah, no, definitely work is going on, but blockchain still seems to be a black box. So everybody is trying to figure out what is the potential, what needs to be done, what are the use cases. But here also, SBI, we have a very active program. We have a very active program of engaging with the fintechs. We support them in many ways. One is that we do procurement and don't follow the rigorous process, which is otherwise associated, and none of the fintechs would be eligible to work with SBI. So we have simplified the procurement process. Selectively, we intend to invest in some of the fintechs. And sometimes the solutions which they give, they are very cost effective and very beneficial to the bank. And it is a perfect combination in the sense that I provide the scale, and they provide me the latest solutions or technology at the fraction of a cost which otherwise I would be able to procure. So it is a win-win situation for everyone. But scale is definitely an issue. State Bank of India, whatever we do, the scale is huge.
Yeah. What I like about the model that you're describing is oftentimes we imagine these incumbent established players getting disrupted by the new players. But instead what I'm seeing in banking and the way you're describing it is a symbiotic relationship between the two. Clearly you offer the scale and the reach and the ability to bring these ideas to fruition, and at the same time, for these new startups, they're able to come up with the new ideas free of the inertia that big banks typically are, or even organizations, and that allows you to then benefit, both sides to benefit, and tap into these external sources of innovation.
No, definitely. And that's what I'm saying. It is about collaboration.
Yeah.
And incumbent also can be innovative.
Yeah.
It is not that incumbents cannot be innovative. And that is precisely what we are doing today. In India, State Bank of India, despite the fact that we are a public sector bank, and otherwise it is felt that if you are a public sector bank, so you cannot be innovative. But that's not the case. And today we have the leadership as far as the technology and digital goes, and our latest platform, which is the mobile-based application YONO. So definitely it is established as a leader and one of its kind application in the country and possibly in the world. And I'm getting very good feedback and huge response to the new application.
No, really unbelievable. And the not only the scale itself, but the pace, the speed with which you're able to scale has really been tremendous. Do you think that the regulatory environment is moving fast enough to enable these changes to take place?
Yes, in a way, regulators are very well aware. They have their own issues concerned. But I don't think they are coming into the way in any manner. Their main issue would be around cyber security and data security. These are the two issues which are a matter of concern to us and which are a matter of concern to everyone and including the regulators. So till such time we are able to parallelly take care of the concerns around cyber security and data security, there should not be much of an issue otherwise in the long run.
Now, it makes sense to, we all need to have an environment which works and is stable, and that's good. So you focused a lot, we've been talking a lot about the India strategy. What about SBI's global strategy? And you could look at it as the West, you could look at it in Southeast Asia, perhaps Africa. How do you see SBI's role beyond India?
So SBI definitely, as far as India is concerned, so we are the bank which has the largest international presence. The strategy is to consolidate, not thinly spread, but wherever we are, then we should have the size and scale. Because one is that regulatory and compliance costs and requirements are going up. And if you have a small scale, then it doesn't matter. It is not a cost effect. So our focus is on certain geographies, which is of course driven by two facts: the India and the trade with that particular country, or the presence of Indian diaspora.
So are you essentially, it reminds me a little bit of the Japanese banks which followed their own clients. Japanese banks were supporting Japanese corporations. In that case, less diaspora, but much more. Is this also a strategy that you are looking at following, or do you want to branch out?
No, that is the natural. For any bank, just to go in an overseas territory or a foreign territory, it is not easy. It is tough. Even in India, even the largest bank, global bank, if it comes, it will find very tough to compete with us, the State Bank of India. So you have to have a business case, you have to have a USP, and that comes from your connect with the corporates with whom you have relationship back. And I think that is the strategy for most of the global banks. There are very few examples where, again, maybe on the strength of some superior technology or products or services, some banks had an advantage in overseas territories. But I don't think that's not the case anymore. And the presence would definitely be justified about, as I said, the trade relationship between the two countries, or the presence of an Indian diaspora.
Makes sense. So which are the focus areas then? United States being one?
Definitely one of them. US, Canada, UK. In South Asia, we have a very good presence in Nepal. We are at 200 lakhs to and we have 19 branches there. Mauritius, Middle East. So they're all what we are talking about, the trade and presence of Indian diaspora. So that fits in very well into our state. And yes, it's more difficult to make money in countries like USA or UK or Canada, but still we have been present here in these countries for a fairly long time. UK we opened our branch in 1921. That was the first branch. US we have been present in 1971, and these US today is the largest operations outside India.
Yeah.
So they will continue to be under our focus, and whatever we do, but the presence in US, Canada, UK, that will be still.
Makes sense. And as Indian corporations also globalize and become bigger players in these markets, they will naturally come to you. I remember when the Tatas initially did the acquisitions of Tetley, it was all foreign lead arrangers. But when it came down to, I think, Chorus, and then especially when Jaguar Land Rover happened, SBI and SBI Capital rose to that top spot, which says a lot about the capabilities that the bank has built over time to compete with all the major banks across the world.
It has. And its size, the scale of operations, its experience in catering to the consumers across the sectors. So poorest of the poor and the richest. We can cater every segment.
I mean, that is really important, that you have the diversity, you have the scale, but also the diversity. The good thing is that there's enough scale within each of these segments, so it's possible to also, I think, run sufficient experiments and have these different offerings that the bank produces. Now, having a global strategy or a local strategy in India is one thing, and having the vision. Executing on it cannot be easy, in the sense that I'm quite sure that there are highly capable individuals who work for the State Bank of India, but things are changing and it's difficult to adapt. How do you get a behemoth with its ways to adjust and change to these times which embrace the digital, the innovation, fintech, etc.? How do you do that with such a large establishment?
So one is, as you have rightly mentioned, that you need people within the organization who are progressive, dynamic and outgoing. So that is the first thing. If you keep your windows, doors kept open, then only you can make it forward. Otherwise, with a bank like the State Bank of India, generally there would be a sense that we know everything, we are the greatest. If you have that feeling, then it is very counter. So that is where whenever we are discussing our strategy or anything, we are very clear that we have to have an outward orientation. We have to listen to the new ideas, and there is no dearth of advice, there is no dearth of top quality consultant. Most of them we have been working together on various fronts. Today, even if you look at our IT and digital initiatives, or any name in the world, you name it, and they are our partners. You name any Indian company in this field and they are our partners. So a lot of value comes from the outside world. It's all about that how receptive you are and willing to experiment and take some risk.
So how do you change mindsets? What do you do when someone who's been there for a long time, wants to do things in a particular way? It's great to get the advice, but organizationally it can't be easy.
So that is where the communication and your communication strategy that comes into place. And if we are launching any project, and particularly which involves staff at the ground level in a big way, then the communication strategies also becomes part of the project, that how will we communicate. And today, because again, using the technology itself is a great enabler in communication. Earlier you will have to write letters or other means of communication, but today all our stuff, new products, services, everything is available offline. Today the paper goes from central office and people have easy access The communication is definitely an integral part of this strategy, but our people, they have adopted well. And I remember those days, then first time when we went on a window-based operator,
Yes.
our people could not control the cursor, including myself. So that was a challenge at that time.
Of course.
And now, because our average age of the organization, it has also come down to 42 years.
Yeah.
In last 7-8 years, whatever recruitment we have done,
Yeah.
they are younger people, they are tech savvy, and that's why adoption of technology is not as much a challenge with this generation, which was early.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, there are a number of factors that you've identified. One is the leadership needs to be in place to set a vision. The structural changes, which is really important, that have to be done from time to time. The people and nurturing the right ones. Have you done anything, and then leveraging, of course, sources of external innovation too, by having these startups in conjunction with internal idea generation. Have you, by any chance, changed any incentive systems within? We hear a lot about that. When you talk about, the likes of Google and others, especially new age companies, they tinker a lot with incentives, try and get people to behave differently, experiment, take risks, and so forth. Do you have that in place, or is it difficult to do when you're bound by certain guidelines in such a large
No, that is there because it's a large organization, it's a public sector organization. But it does not stop us from incentivizing our people.
Yeah.
We do that regularly. Maybe the scale is not as big as a private sector organization.
Yeah.
That differentiation is there. But there are ways and means through which we recognize their effort, the ways and means which we appreciate any good work done. Other incentives also. We have a very robust appraisal system, which is again one of its kind, very large. Where all the employees of the bank, all of them, right from the clerical level to the top, they get appraised, and the suitable reward system is in place. But yes, nothing compared to what happens in the private sector.
Yeah, and I appreciate that talent management must be a different kind of challenge, right, compared to the private sector and getting people, and yet good people do come to the bank.
They do.
And you must invest in people, and groom them and give them other opportunities and rewards so they feel the satisfaction of being part of it, rather than it's not that you don't get any good employees. Now, one thing that I've been very impressed by is this State Bank of India Institute of Leadership that you've created in Calcutta, which, as I understand it, is meant to be more than a training center. Really, the vision seems to be much bigger for grooming new ideas around fintech and helping the bank to leapfrog and play a pioneering role across Southeast Asia as well. What is the concept behind the State Bank of India Institute of
SBI
Leadership?
and State Bank Institute of Leadership, this is the latest Apex Training Institute.
Yeah.
We have 5 of them, and I came on the scene last year, I was chairman. So after a lot of deliberation, what was decided that each of this Apex Training Institute will focus on specialization. And Calcutta, which is the latest facility and very beautifully built, we are very proud of it. So we decided that it will be our State Bank Institute of Leadership, which will train and create leadership pipeline, not only for State Bank of India, but other banks in India, as well as the nearby countries. And as I said, that infrastructure is beautiful. Now we are trying to create intellectual capital there, and we are trying to collaborate with the rest of the universities across the world. Wharton is one of them where we are talking. Already we have created a couple of programs, and they have all been very well appreciated. So it is being positioned as an institute which will really, I believe in 2 to 3 years' time, should be able to make a name for itself.
I was really impressed when I visited the institute and by your expression of the vision, because it's not just a training ground. A, you want to go out to other parts of Southeast Asia, but secondly, like you alluded to, be a thought leadership center as well, which will allow SBI to be associated with not only good banking and practice, but also new models of banking, and allow you to take the lead and be associated with it. I mean, what a wonderful vision, and very apt to do this from India.
No, absolutely. And as I said, that we are looking for a lot of external inputs and collaboration. It is not that it's all SBI people or we will manage it.
In the spirit of the ecosystem that you were describing, open innovation is really the mantra that you follow. We are certainly happy to partner, but it's really good to see that, there seems to have been a real cultural shift. And that's really hard to do, but in the bank, to embrace these ideas and openness. And that is very welcome to see these kinds of developments.
So it is all about messaging also, what message goes from the top management team. So before I say to others that you be open to new ideas, first I have to be open to the new ideas and this thing, and once people see that, then the adoption starts happening. And once you get some success, then it becomes self-propagating. You can build on it. And today I think the environment in the State Bank of India, despite all the challenges we have, but there is a confidence. There is a confidence in our capability to adopt to the new environment, capability to compete in the marketplace, despite all the fintechs, despite all the private sector players, but we have not given an inch of space.
And which is very impressive. Now, one of the questions is, in the spirit of openness, can you imagine SBI leveraging external growth strategies like acquisitions, for instance, more fully? Now, obviously, SBI has consolidated internally, but in terms of the external strategy of perhaps acquiring other banks, whether within India, but especially outside, can you see the bank doing these things?
It is not immediately on the agenda.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. In India, we did 6 mergers last year only.
Yeah.
And I have to still get the benefit of that merger.
Yeah.
And acquiring a bank in India, definitely, I don't think it makes sense for a state bank.
Certainly. You're big enough.
We are big enough.
Yeah.
And I have a customer base of in excess of 430 million. We are present across the country. And the number of customers, the number of transactions we handle. So within that, what we need to do is more efficient, more cost efficient, more profitable. And if we have to ever acquire something, so why not acquire a fintech itself rather than acquiring a bank?
Yes. I like the way you're thinking. If we look at companies like Cisco and others, right, who've grown, they're leaders themselves, but they got their house in order, and after that they started buying smaller firms, because then you bring not only the product and the technology, but also the capability, as well as the new culture in-house, and you start transforming your own organization in the process.
Yeah. So that is what I mean. That is just a logic. It is not that I have given thought to it as of now.
No, we won't hold you to it. But I think as a strategy, it makes a lot of sense. In particular, the focus of you're getting in new competencies that you're missing or you need, as opposed to the more of the same. You have the scale for that already, right? And I think that's important. And it's not too different. If you look at the big banks here, the JP Morgans and others, for instance, Chase and so forth, Deutsche Bank, etc., they're all looking at it. Some do organically, but at some point partnerships, the ecosystem, of course, that you're also describing with some incubation internally and externally, and then buying other firms makes a lot of sense.
It's a lot of sense. But right now we are trying to be more on the collaboration side, as I said.
Sure.
And
which is less risky also.
Which is less risky also. And like at some stage we see an opportunity. Acquisition.
Very, very exciting to see all these activities. Now, just to wrap things up, if you think about it, just in the last segment of our conversation, how do you see the time frame for an SBI to get to the vision of where you are? Are we talking about a 5-year process, 10-year process, 2 years? I mean, how quickly can this happen?
One is that it's a continuous process.
Yeah. Nice answer. Nice answer. You know.
It is a continuous process.
Yeah.
You keep on changing. Certain things you do within a given time, but change keeps on happening. And each of the chief executive, whoever comes in, they come with a 3 to 5 year time frame for themselves.
Yes.
So for me, say for example, it is a 3-year term.
Yeah.
So I can only whether in 3-year term, what I can achieve in 3 years, and what are the things which I can initiate, which my successor will do.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the vision is that the State Bank of India, it should remain leader in India and scale up its global ambitions also. As the India goes. Without India's stature growing on the world stage, it is not possible for the bank to grow. If you look at the history of the last 40 years and look at the list of the banks in the top 10, it keeps on changing. So 30 years ago, no Chinese bank will be there. But as China has grown, so their banks are coming in the top 10. Earlier it was Japan, then China, prior to that US, so that's how the order keeps on changing. But the way we are looking at is, or I am looking at is SBI is that
What's the secret Starbucks?
number one,
Just like too long.
financially custodians. Second, it should be capable to lead in all market segments. For us, it is not niche.
Yeah.
In that sense.
You have full portfolio. Yeah.
Full portfolio, starting from, as I said, the most underprivileged to the richest man.
Yeah.
So that is what we have to do, and we cannot drop any second.
Now,
And second is of course the leadership in technology and innovation. There the leadership is very important more than anything else. And third is of course our ability to manage, retain the challenge within the whatever are the limitations of a sector organization. But sometimes it is overstated. I think despite being public sector organization, we are able to protect it.
do you think that the Apples or the Googles are going to displace any of the major banks, or will that be more complementary? I mean, they're more in the payment space.
They are more in the payment space in the happening, but still, I believe that it is not easy to displace the incumbents.
Yeah.
In India, I have a network of say 22,500 branches,
Yeah.
60,000 ATMs,
Yeah.
58,000 customer service points, which I manage the locations. We have such a wide footprint of physical, and on the top of it, we have the technology. It's an ideal combination of physical and trust plays a very important role when it comes to the financial services.
Yeah.
These are all top-class companies. They have the technology, they have cutting-edge technology, but it's still, I believe that it's not going to be easy to dislodge
Yeah.
a player like the State Bank of India, who are so well established, but no cause or no reason to be complacent. We
Yes.
have to flow with the time. We have to, as I again and again say, that if we are not adopting technology in a big way, if we are not innovative, then the chances of survival will be become questionable.
What a wonderful note to end on. The incumbent also has advantages and can manage the challenges. Thank you very much. Time flew. I look forward to chatting some more.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the
I
conversation.
enjoyed it very, very much. Very good.
Thank you.